It was late on a quiet April night in Lowell County, Michigan. Inside a large farmhouse surrounded by endless acres of fields, one woman stood on the edge of a life-changing decision. For years, she had built everything here: her home, her business, her family's legacy. But that night, behind closed doors, everything she'd worked for was about to be destroyed. But by dawn, that silence would hide something unthinkable. A marriage shattered, a family torn apart, and a woman the entire community would soon be searching for. What happened inside that farmhouse on April 24th, 2021, remains one of the most haunting mysteries in Michigan's history. A story of love, power, and betrayal that would take years to fully uncover. At 52, Dee Ann Warner seemed to have everything: a thriving trucking business, a beautiful property, 5 children, and deep roots in her Michigan community. She was a woman everyone admired, hardworking, generous, and always smiling. Her company, DDW Investments, had grown from a small family operation into a regional success. Dee was respected not only for her leadership, but for her strength. Yet that strength was being tested more than ever. For 15 years, Dee had been married to Dale Warner, a man whose charm had long since faded into control and intimidation. What had started as a partnership had slowly turned into domination. Dale controlled every aspect of their lives: the business, the finances, even Dee's personal communications. He demanded her passwords, tracked her vehicle, and installed cameras throughout their property. Friends said Dee had begun to shrink inside her own life, a prisoner in her own home. By late April 2021, Dee had made a choice she could no longer delay. She was leaving Dale. That Saturday morning, April 24th, she woke up determined to take the first steps toward freedom. It wasn't just about ending a marriage. It was about reclaiming her life. Her day began with something ordinary, almost symbolic: a visit to the salon to have her eyelashes done. Her esthetician, Kelly Jo Stace, later remembered the visit vividly. Dee looked exhausted, her eyes red and swollen as if she'd been crying for hours, but she still scheduled her next appointment for the following week. To investigators later, that small gesture would become a critical clue, proof that Dee was planning for her future, not preparing to disappear. After leaving the salon, Dee stopped to visit her children. First, she went to see her daughter Amber, where her son Zach was also visiting. They both noticed immediately that something was wrong. Dee tried to stay composed, but tears kept coming. She confided that she was scared, not of being alone, but of Dale. She was tired of being watched, manipulated, and undermined. Later that day, she took her youngest daughter, Angelina, to a soccer game, trying to keep things normal. She smiled from the stands, cheered, and chatted with other parents. But behind that smile, she was terrified. Friends would later recall that she seemed distracted, her eyes unfocused, her phone always in her hand, as if waiting for something to happen. That afternoon, Dee sent a text message to her son, Zach. It was clear and final. She said she was done. Done with the marriage, done with the business arguments, done with the fighting. She even offered to sign over her shares of the family companies to Dale. It was her line in the sand. As night fell over the Warner property, the tension finally erupted. Dee got into a heated argument with Dale and one of their employees, Todd Nyink, who had become increasingly involved in the business. The argument centered on money, control, and betrayal, 3 things that defined life on the Warner farm. Dee believed Todd was acting behind her back, making unauthorized decisions about company finances with Dale's support. The shouting match grew so intense that Dee, perhaps sensing danger, made a decision that would later haunt everyone who loved her. She sent her 9-year-old daughter to spend the weekend with a friend. It was around 8:30 p.m. It was as if she knew something terrible was coming. That night, Dee exchanged messages with her business manager, Stephanie Volkler. She told her she was shaking, vomiting, and hyperventilating from stress. She said she'd told Dale she wanted to sell everything, to end the business, end the marriage, and finally start over. Voser urged her to stay safe, but Dee's mind was made up. She was leaving no matter what it cost. At 10:24 p.m., one of Dee's friends texted her to check in. Usually, Dee replied instantly, but this time there was silence. Then, nearly 30 minutes later, her phone lit up with a short reply. Just one letter. K. It wasn't her style. Dee never texted like that. To everyone who knew her, that single letter felt wrong, cold, emotionless, mechanical, and it would be the last message she ever sent. Around 9 a.m. of the next morning, Dee's daughter, Rickle, arrived for their usual Sunday breakfast, a long-standing family ritual. She had her boyfriend and young child with her, expecting to be greeted by her mom with coffee and laughter just like every weekend. But this time, no one answered the door. Rickle called out for her mother. No response. The house was still, eerily so. Then she saw Dale outside. When she asked where her mother was, Dale calmly told her Dee wasn't there. In his hand, he was holding something that froze Rickle in place. Dee's $50,000 wedding ring. He said he found it on his desk, claiming Dee must have left it behind before taking off. But Rickle knew her mother never removed that ring. It wasn't a piece of jewelry to her. It was part of who she was. As the days went by, friends and relatives started calling to ask where Dee was. Each time someone asked, Dale's story changed. He said Dee had packed a few things. Her purse, a curling iron, hairspray, and a small travel bag, and had left on her own. He suggested she might have gone to stay with someone else or just needed some time away. But none of it made sense. Both of Dee's cars were still on the property, one in the garage and the other parked near her office. Her phone, bank cards, and personal items hadn't been touched since the night before. There were no calls, no text messages, and no signs she had gone anywhere. Her family began to worry. When they couldn't reach her, someone finally called the Lena County Sheriff's Office to request a welfare check at the Warner property. When deputies arrived, they spoke with Dale Warner, and from the start, something didn't feel right. He was calm, polite, and almost too relaxed. His tone didn't match the seriousness of the situation. During questioning, Dale said something unusual. He claimed Dee had a secret phone, a second cell she supposedly used for private conversations, and that she didn't know he knew about it. It was an odd thing to say, and it revealed more about Dale than about Dee. He wasn't describing her behavior. He was describing his own watching, tracking, and trying to control her. As investigators started digging into the couple's past, they quickly found a disturbing pattern. Rickle, Dee's daughter, later explained that her mother had once discovered a GPS tracker hidden under her car installed by Dale. He had also used employees to keep tabs on her movements and had tried to clone her phone. In December 2020, 4 months before she disappeared, Dee had tried to leave him. She told a close friend that when she started packing her things, Dale became aggressive and refused to let her take their youngest daughter, Angelina, with her. In early 2021, Dee confided in her business manager, Stephanie, and showed her a small bump hidden under her hairline, an injury from a physical confrontation with Dale. She tried to downplay it, but Stephanie could tell something was seriously wrong. Dee also said she was afraid to leave her daughter alone with him. Despite the fear, she kept working and stayed focused on protecting her child. The day after the welfare check, Dale's actions made investigators even more suspicious. Instead of helping organize searches or giving police full access, he changed the passwords on the property's security system, locking everyone out of the surveillance footage that could have shown what happened that night. He also called a lawyer not to report his missing wife, but to represent himself. From that point on, Dale focused less on finding Dee and more on protecting himself. He continued running his businesses, transferring assets, and limiting what others could see. When detectives interviewed him, he spoke calmly and at length about work, payroll, trucking routes, and company changes. He sounded more like a businessman managing a problem than a husband whose wife had vanished. He didn't show worry or urgency. He didn't ask questions about search efforts. For someone whose spouse was missing, he seemed unusually composed. By the summer of 2021, investigators realized this case wasn't just about a missing woman. It was about money, control, and power. Dee had built DDW Investments from the ground up. But after she disappeared, Dale began quietly transferring vehicles, equipment, and contracts into his own name. He even created a new company, DDW Transportation LLC. At first, it looked like a business move, but in 2022, private investigator Billy Little discovered what was really going on. Dale had used what appeared to be a forged power of attorney, dated 2014, to transfer Dee's assets into his company just 4 months after she went missing. It wasn't a coincidence. Dale clearly didn't expect Dee to return. He was already building a new life and taking full control of her businesses. As investigators kept going, another name stood out. Todd Nyink, the employee who had argued with Dee the night she vanished. Digital records revealed suspicious activity from Todd on the night of April 25, 2021. Around 3:30 a.m., he accessed company systems under a false name. He entered and left the Warner property, then drove a company truck to Burns Harbor, Indiana, and later to a wastewater facility in Chicago. It was an unusual route at an unusual time, and it placed him at the center of the timeline when Dee disappeared. Months later, Billy Little obtained a recording of Todd speaking to his massage therapist. In it, Todd admitted he was involved up to his ears in the case. Even more alarming, he revealed that the lead investigator on Dee's disappearance, Detective Kevin Graish, was dating his cousin. That meant the case had been compromised from the inside. It explained the delays, the lack of warrants, the inconsistencies. Dale wasn't just manipulative. He was protected. In 2022, Dale sold DDW Transportation to Laidlaw Carriers Bulk, pocketing the profits for himself. The company that Dee had built with her own hands was gone, absorbed into another corporation, and the money that should have gone to her estate or her children vanished along with it. Meanwhile, Dee's son, Zach, tried to open his mother's electronic safe, hoping to find documents or cash that could shed light on what happened. But the code, which had always worked, no longer did. When he used the backup key, the safe opened, but the contents were empty. The cash was gone. Only 2 people had access, Dee and Dale. It became increasingly clear that Dale was erasing Dee from her own life, not just physically, but financially and legally. He was dismantling everything she'd built piece by piece. He even tried to divide up the family land, despite Dee still legally owning half. When private investigator Little confronted him about it, he asked how Dale could possibly split property without her signature. The answer was horrifying in its simplicity. Dale no longer believed Dee would ever object to anything again. As investigators mapped out the timeline, a disturbing pattern emerged: Dale's control, Todd's movements, the financial transfers, the camera passwords. Everything pointed to a coordinated effort to cover up murder. By late 2022, the Michigan State Police and Lena County prosecutors had accumulated nearly 2 years' worth of evidence: financial documents, digital logs, witness statements, and expert reports. It wasn't one smoking gun. It was hundreds of smaller pieces, all pointing in the same direction. And though there was still no body, investigators were confident they knew exactly who was responsible. After 20 months of relentless work, the Michigan State Police were ready to move. On November 21st, 2023, they announced what Dee's family had been waiting to hear for more than 2 years. Dale John Warner, age 53, had been arrested for open murder and tampering with evidence in connection with the disappearance of his wife. At his arraignment the next day, Dale appeared calm, almost smug. When the judge asked for his plea, he looked her directly in the eye and said, "Not guilty." Prosecutors called him a flight risk, a manipulator, and a danger to the community. They requested a $20 million bond, one of the highest in county history. The judge agreed Dale would remain behind bars while awaiting trial. For Dee's family, the arrest brought mixed emotions. It confirmed what they had feared all along, that the man they once trusted was responsible for her disappearance. Yet, it also marked the first real step toward justice. Even with Dale behind bars, one question still consumed everyone who loved her. Where was Dee Ann Warner? Her children searched fields, rivers, barns, anywhere her body could be. Volunteers combed through acres of farmland, and investigators followed every lead. But still, there was nothing. It was as if she had vanished into the earth itself. Then in August 2024, that silence finally broke. On August 17th, 2024, the Michigan State Police returned to one of Dale Warner's properties, a farm located on Paragon Road, just 4 miles from the family home where Dee was last seen alive. It wasn't the first time they had searched the property, but this time, new forensic technology and digital evidence pointed them toward a specific location, an old barn. Inside, among tools and farm equipment, investigators noticed something strange: a large anhydrous ammonia tank. To anyone else, it looked perfectly normal, part of the machinery scattered around the property. But this tank stood out. Its surface had been repainted, its seams re-welded, and its metal exterior looked unnaturally clean compared to everything around it. When officers opened it, the smell hit first. Chemical, heavy, unmistakable. Inside that tank, after 1,200 days of searching, they found what everyone had feared: the remains of Dee Ann Warner. Her body had been hidden inside the welded tank for over 3 years, sealed, entombed, and left to rust less than 4 miles from her own home. 5 days later, on August 22nd, 2024, the Jackson County Medical Examiner officially confirmed the identity through dental records. Dee Ann Warner had been found. Her death was ruled a homicide, though the exact cause of death was withheld while prosecutors finalized their case. For Dee's children, it was both relief and heartbreak. Relief that the endless waiting was over. Heartbreak because the truth was worse than they could have imagined. Dale hadn't just killed her. He'd engineered her disappearance, hiding her body in plain sight on property he visited regularly, walking by the very place he'd entombed his wife. The discovery strengthened the prosecution's case. In May 2025, Dee's family filed a $100 million wrongful death lawsuit against Dale Warner, accusing him of murder, concealment, and years of emotional, financial, and physical abuse. According to court filings, investigators now believe the following sequence. On the night of April 24, 2021, Dale strangled Dee inside their home after she told him she was leaving. He then transported her body to the Paragon Road property. There, he placed her inside the ammonia tank, welded it shut, and painted it to conceal the evidence. The lawsuit also described years of manipulation and domestic violence, painting a portrait of a man who saw his wife not as a partner, but as property, as Dale sat in jail awaiting trial. More shocking twists surfaced. In March 2025, his adult son, Dee Ann Warner, was arrested and charged with tampering with evidence and accessory to murder in connection with Dee's death. The charges were later dropped, but the arrest hinted at what investigators had long suspected, that Dale did not act alone. Several employees and family members had likely helped him maintain the illusion of normalcy, moving assets and hiding evidence while pretending nothing had happened. Still, the discovery of Dee's body changed everything. For the first time, prosecutors had what they needed. Not just circumstantial evidence, but proof of death. During Dale's preliminary hearing in June 2024, the judge ruled there was enough evidence to send the case to trial. Dale's defense attorney argued that the prosecution's case was built on assumptions and that media coverage had poisoned the local jury pool. But in August 2025, the judge denied the motion to move the trial out of Lenoir County. He ruled that an impartial jury could still be found and that justice would be served right where the crime took place. The trial was officially set for January 2026, nearly 5 years after Dee's disappearance. For the Warner family, the years of anguish had transformed into strength. They had never stopped searching, never stopped believing. From the start, they had said Dale was responsible, and now the evidence had finally caught up with him. The barn on Paragon Road is quiet now. The tank that once held Dee's remains has been removed as evidence. The soil around it is scarred, a reminder of what was buried there and what it took to uncover it. Today, her story stands as both a warning and a testament to those who hide behind control and power, and to those who fight back even when their voices are silenced. Dee Ann Warner was found. Her truth was found. And finally, she can rest, not as a missing person, but as a symbol of justice, strength, and the enduring power of truth. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so you can be the first to hear about such real-life stories.